Greetings, Minecrafters, and welcome to another exciting discussion. My name is Kimberly Quinn, and I am thrilled again to continue, actually sort of kind of continue the chat of the video prior to this one, because we've been talking about authenticity so much, and of course, the ego is just so important to keep track of this. And so it's not a repeat, we're going forward, just tapping back into what I would call the ego trap, because it is a trap. I think of snares like, and you know what, I also think, actually I had a thought of just now, Star Wars. I know that's funny, but Star Wars is actually deep and it's like deep Star Wars. So I'm thinking of Anakin when, I forget the Emperor, whoever says, there is no good or evil, only power, you know. And that's not really true, at least when we're talking about the authentic self and the ego in that way, all right? Because the ego can be so seductive because it's all about the bling bling. It wants the immediate gratification. It wants the external approval, because that's like a dope fix, right? That's why people do it. There's a reason people please. There's a reason people drink. It feels good, right? People pleasing in the temporary moment feels good until there's like a soul ache because you sold yourself out. Whenever you abandon the self, it might feel good in that temporary moment, but long term, it's like battery acid on the spirit, right? So the ego is very, very seductive because of that immediate feel-good from people-pleasing, rescuing, gaining external approval, being at something for optics, and, oh, they saw me, and now I'm going to get the promotion, blah, blah, blah. It's so seductive. But the thing is, when we cave into that, like I said, we also often betray ourselves, and then we sort of squash the inner peace that comes from behaving authentically. So this often happens when we get attached to the outcome of a situation. You know, again, the optics thing, and we're so attached, to whatever goal it is. I'm not saying don't have goals. Goals can be good, but being attached to the outcomes isn't good, because the authentic self is very much present moment oriented, whereas the ego resides in the past, lets us know about all the ways we didn't used to measure up and all the ways we might fail again, right? All the ways, everything that we need and want and desire to be somebody with a title and lots of money, or the square footage, or the yacht, or the car, or I have the partner and kids, which is great. It's just what we're talking about, what the thinking is behind that. Like, look at me, I have a partner, versus I'm in this loving relationship because it is what it is kind of thing. And so it's very, very important to realize that. And we talked about earlier, we know thoughts come first, and then feelings second, and then behavior last, right? So whatever we think about expands. Every single thought that crosses our mind expands. This is why it is so important to be aware, to be ego aware, for lack of a better way to say it. It's like, I feel like I want to put that on a t-shirt. Because when the ego is in charge, your authentic self is pushed over to the passenger seat, or the back seat, or even possibly the trunk. And remember that about 96% of what we say and do every single day is coming from the vault. Largely, much of it is negative, because also limbic system's involved in things. The unconscious mind is not the rational thinking part of our brain. So all this ego-driven, dysfunctional egoic thinking, if you want to really get fancy, has been going on for years and reinforced, because whenever the ego acquires what it wants, that little dope fix of approval, it's strengthened, like giving a dog a cookie, for doing whatever. It's like, now I know, and now I go do that again. And the universe does that in a different way with the authentic self. When we are on track with the authentic self, doing the right thing, we are also rewarded. We are rewarded, but it's not a temporary dope fix of, oh, that felt good, like a quick jolt, or when we do whatever we just said, drinking and the external approval, whatever. It gives us the reward of inner peace. And that is that warm wave of just, wow, it's just this feeling connected to the universe, and also inner peace also brings about joy. And that is a feeling that's tough to even put words to. We have to put words to it so we can communicate, like I'm communicating with you, joy. I have to say the word J-O-Y, though in reality, the actual feeling, I don't know that we can really put language to it. Also, awe, inner peace, they're really languageless because they're bigger than us, because the soul is bigger than us. The spirit is vast, right? And it's so important to realize that we are spiritual creatures walking around, all wearing different outfits, having a human experience. And so the real thing we're trying to talk to is avoiding that ego trap, because the outcome-based thinking, because every thought we think expands, means gets bigger and bigger and bigger, when we put it on a pedestal, we are really setting ourselves up for that eventual fall. Even if in that moment the optics, the boss is there, sees you do amazing, you're like woo-hoo-hoo-hoo, okay? And that we're not saying that the approval doesn't feel good. The approval does feel good even to the authentic self. Difference is, we authentics don't go looking for it. And I'm also going to do a disclaimer here. I'm not saying I'm arrived. I'm a work in progress. In fact, I slipped up this week, actually. Video for another time. But then the authentic self, once we're on that journey, though, you're hyper aware of slipping, because you know how good it feels, how great it feels to be authentic. You catch yourself pretty quickly, because it just doesn't feel right. You're like, whoops, back on track. Here we go. So the pedestal thing, when we put circumstances on pedestals for optics or whatever, it doesn't go anywhere good. And when we put people on pedestals, so-and-so at work, I'm going to impress them. Maybe even it's just a friends group, that you got on a pedestal. But here's the thing: or a supervisor, just someone in your life who isn't technically in a place of, a power differential, like with a boss or something. We can put anybody on a pedestal. And here's the thing: you want to listen up well, because whenever we put somebody on a pedestal, I'm going to say it differently. Whenever it's better, it's coming. You ready? Brace yourselves. Whenever we treat somebody like a celebrity, they're going to treat you like a fan. And ever since I heard that, I got to give a shout out to somebody, because that actually isn't mine, but man, I took it right into my rib cage. I took it because I caught myself with, because we do, right? And not even meaning to. The person can be a basically good person. It's us. We're putting them on a pedestal for whatever reason. And once I heard, it was Aaron Doughty, that's who it was. He also does YouTubes. He's an influencer, and he's very, very good if you want to check into him. But that just came into my head at this minute. When you treat somebody like a celebrity, they're going to treat you like a fan. And I noticed myself, I'm thinking with one particular person in my life, and he's not a family member, he's a friend, and it's not his fault. I was the one he's a wonderful human being. I was doing that. It's so crazy. Once I got that awareness, I really stopped doing it. And once I kind of equaled out, person, even with other person, our whole relationship got better. He still, to this day, has no idea. Unless he's watching this video, in which case he might. But no, and again, he didn't do anything. But we don't want to put people or circumstances on pedestals, because obviously if something's up here, it's got nowhere to go but down. It just makes no sense. Another thing is when we do that, and this is huge, okay? And again, I'm so aware of this fitting in versus belonging thing. That's why I did my disclaimer just now, because it's almost like, and it's not almost like, when we really say almost like, what we're saying are, this is what's happening, and we're just tap dancing around it. So when we're on the path to authenticity, and we say, Oprah talks about this too, my dear friend Oprah, who I absolutely love. She talks about this too, and lots of people do, how the universe, or God, source, however you want to say, it gives us quizzes over and over and over again. We're going to keep getting them until we get it. And it's wild, because as we inch up closer to getting that A+, it's like they get harder. Like, you thought you got it, but here's another one just in case. And that has happened to me a couple times lately, like in the last 2 weeks, of this fitting in versus belonging thing. And I'll tell you what's really wild. I wasn't going to share this, but I decided to in this exact minute, because it's human, and humans relatable. And so there was something going on professionally that I'm like, and I fell into it. Really got to be there. My intentions were actually good, and I thought, what? This doesn't feel right. If though my intentions were good, it didn't feel right to me. This was on the way home in the Jeep last night, and I felt that inner conflict surfacing, and I had a moment of getting caught up in it, and I put it out to the universe. I said, I'm feeling the gurgle, like a not like a volcano, that's too intense, but just like a gurgling drain or something, a little bit of a gurgle, because why is this that I feel like I want to be there for this right reason, but it doesn't feel right? And this is what I put out to the universe: show me the way, followed by give me the strength. And sure enough, this morning, out of my wonderful husband, I don't even know if he was aware he was doing it, maybe he was, it rolled out of him on the way out the door like he was in motion. And he said, this and that. What are you doing? Why? You don't need to do that. You don't need them to ba-ba-ba-ba. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you, universe. Also, thank you for my wonderful husband. He was a channel. It just like, look. I'm like, oh my God, wake up. So we're on this path we become more hyper aware of when we slip up. I'm like, you are absolutely right. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. And the thing is, when we cave in to fitting in, which remember is not the same as belonging. Fitting in is adjusting ourselves, even if it's just in a conversation. It doesn't have to be huge and deep, and then it can be. Whenever we adjust ourselves to fit in out here in whatever way, even if it's just a conversation or being at this thing that I was thinking about, that we actually, even if it seems harmless, it isn't. Because whenever we have this desire to step outside our frame, we've talked about that a lot. Whenever we step outside our frame, it is a huge expense, even if it's just a conversation or an event. Because in that moment, there's some kind of decision, even if it's subtle, that's saying a message that's saying what you think of me is more important than what I think of me, even if it's just being seen at an event. It's so bad for the self-esteem. It does not gel with authenticity. What you think of me is more important than what I think of me. And I temporarily almost bit that hook until it rolled through my husband. And no, thank you, don't need it. Don't need it. Because whenever I fit in out here, when I fit in with you, group, plural, I cease to fit in with myself. No freaking way. I'm too far along for that crap, I'll tell you. Because belonging is about, I belong to myself always. I have the courage to stand alone with whatever it is. I have the courage to not go to something, not be seen at something. Don't give a fat rat's ass, thank you very much. And so this is what rolls into the ego trap and having outcome-based thinking and all the things that are related to outcome-based thinking. The optics, the approval, the pleasing, the tangibles like promotions and all that stuff. That is far more apt to come when you are asking for guidance along the authentic path. The universe rewards that like nuts. Abundance will fall right in your lap when you are in alignment with, when your personality, let's be clear here, when your personality is in alignment with your purpose, which mine is probably 97% of the time, there's a little slip up, it's just like, it's like a faucet you can't shut off. It literally just comes from everywhere. And what you do is you just say, I'm on the authentic path. Pick me. Yes, yay. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from Northern Vermont. Have a mindful, very authentic day.